Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about something that's making the news, right? It's making headlines, and I think it's important to talk about it because it ties in with a lot of the stuff that I talk about. We're gonna go ahead and jump into it. So what it has to do with the Young Thug trial that's going on in Georgia. You have this issue going on with a judge that committed misconduct. He's the Fulton County Superior Court Chief Judge. His name is Earl Landville. Anyways, here's the thing though, irrespective of what you think of this dude, right, Williams, Young Thug, whatever you want to call him, irrespective of what you think of him, let's not get sucked into just that part of it. He's a rapper. Look at some of the stuff that I talk about in my content about corrupt judges and judges not being held accountable. So let's start off with the lack of accountability. So here you have a judge that clearly committed misconduct. And by the way, just so you guys understand, like the judge is like improperly trying to coerce and threatening a witness that he must testify. I mean, do you understand how serious that is? He did it in secret. He's not supposed to do that. That violates, like, just blatantly violates just basic rules, canon for judges. And yet he did it. And where's the accountability? He's been recused. You know what that means? That means that he simply won't be presiding over that trial. Whoop-de-doo. What is that? That's not accountability. How many other times has he done this? How many more times is he going to continue to do this because he wasn't held accountable? He did something very improper. How many people have been wrongfully convicted with him as a judge, right? That calls all that into question. Especially if you watch the videos, there's tons of footage. You see his reaction. His big thing was, how'd you catch me? Who told you? Who snitched on me? It's crazy. And there's people that have commented on some of my videos and they say, well, there's this canon or that canon proceeding or that proceeding to hold the judge accountable. But here's the thing, and I've been waiting, eagerly awaiting to make this point to normal people, because the people making these comments are probably attorneys or prosecutors or former judges or something that part of the dirty system. But what I'm talking about is like, look, the reality of it is, understand there's rules and then there's statutes and there's all this stuff. All that in essence, in a way, is theoretical when it comes to judges. And I wouldn't say 100% of the time, because I'm sure that there's been some judge somewhere been held accountable. And I say that for emphasis, but there's probably a few of them that have. But how many have not been held accountable? It doesn't matter what the rules are and what statutes or canons are out there. If they're not enforced, then what good are they? If it's almost impossible to do it, if you have to spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in attorney fees and other fees to try to hold the judge accountable, if you have to dedicate hundreds of hours into it to hold the judge accountable, then that's not real. Who's got the time to do that? People are living paycheck to paycheck. People are struggling, right? Who the hell's gonna spend 50 hours researching and trying to do this themselves, trying to hold the judge accountable for something like that? There are people that will do it, but most people don't have the ability to do that. People are busy. They have 2 jobs and 3 jobs, or they, you know what I mean? They got family and they have responsibilities and whatever. So the fact that there might be a canon or some sort of code of judicial conduct that says that you could hold the judge accountable doesn't mean that it's real. It actually gets applied. The judges are actually held accountable. I just recently had a podcast with an attorney and we talked on this subject. You know, we were talking about judges and accountability, and I said, how many do you know that have been held accountable for this? Because we were talking about a specific example, and you have to watch the podcast about a specific thing that they're not supposed to do. Like, they're not supposed to do that, and it's affecting and it's turning people's lives upside down. And I said, how many times have they actually been held accountable, right? As far as you know, and this is a top attorney in Illinois. 0. He couldn't think of one. You know, I'm sure there might be some, and maybe he's forgetting, right? Maybe there was one or something, but that's not the point. The point is that there's all this theoretical garbage, and then there's practicality. Who actually gets held accountable? What judges actually get held accountable? You get held accountable, right? You screw up, you're gonna pay for it. But judges, it's not the same thing for them. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, right? With this judge, he didn't spend any time in jail. There's not gonna be any criminal charges against him. I mean, maybe he gets reelected, maybe he doesn't. If it's an elected position, there's gonna be any civil lawsuits against him. So what? So he gets recused. Whoop-de-doo. Anyways, and you understand, in this case right here, with this specific case, it's racketeering and a bunch of other charges. And, you know, I mean, the stakes are as high as they can possibly be. Like, we're talking about if these guys are convicted, right? And let's put aside for a moment, right, whether you believe or not that they're guilty, but the stakes are as high as they can be. If they're convicted, they're spending a ton of time, potentially the rest of their lives in prison, potentially decades, and potentially the rest of their lives. We're talking about the stakes being as high as they can possibly be. But the thing is, these guys have constitutional rights, just like you have constitutional rights. But that's not the point. Okay, they might be guilty. Well, you have to do another trial, and you have to do it correctly, and they have rights, constitutional rights. Because if we start violating the rights of people that look or seem to be guilty, then who's next? You're next. We're next. And it's already happening. And if you think that this is just theory or I'm wrong, well, all you got to do is just look at what's happened to our constitutional rights. Your constitutional rights are not black and white like you think they are. Look at, just for example, right? If you think I'm wrong, look at Miranda rights. Your Miranda rights are saying you're not supposed to violate your rights to invoke your Fifth Amendment, right? They're supposed to read your Miranda rights to you, and then if you want to speak to them, great, and if you don't, then fine. Then they have to rely on whatever investigation they do and whatever evidence they get to prove you're guilty. However, if you dig deep into Miranda rights, which I have, then you start seeing that there's tons of exceptions. And there's tons of little tricks and tactics that are used by police to violate your rights. I understand if you're taking the position that, well, guilty people should be convicted and, screw them. Even if you want to take that position. But again, this will come back to bite all of us. That's what I'm trying to say. Because they get screwed. People that are quote unquote guilty, they get screwed. And then it becomes precedents. It becomes case law. Then it becomes more law starts to build on it, right? More decisions start to build on it. Then somebody gets charged, right? And they're innocent. And they try to invoke their Miranda rights and they mean next to nothing because they've been shredded. I should make clear. I think it's important to make clear at this point, and I should have started with that. You understand, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving you legal advice. Talk to your attorney if you have issues related to this type of thing. But I'm giving you my opinion based on experience, based on research that I've done. And it might be totally wrong. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think I am. I know what I'm talking about from my perspective. Anyways, my point is the stakes are as high as they can be. They have constitutional rights. Those have to be protected. Because if you don't protect their constitutional rights, then yours are going after. Your rights are being violated next. And it's only a matter of time. Here's another simple one. Your First Amendment right. I mean, have you read it? Do you know what it is? Right to free speech. What's happened now? What's happened is that the government is collaborating and cooperating with private industry, private companies to try to violate your First Amendment right. So all I'm saying is that judge needs to be held accountable. It probably won't happen, but there should be criminal charges if it rises to that level, and definitely civil charges. Make it hurt his pocketbook. You know what I mean? Make him take out an equity line of credit and pay for some attorney fees or something, right? To make it hurt a little bit. So my final point on that is that we should all care about this, right? For the reasons I just explained. But also the second point that I want to make is that I think judges have too much power, and I've created some content on this, and you can see it here, right? Go up there and watch the video. You'll see that the judge decided to not address the question that was being asked of him, which is important, and instead locked up the attorney. He locked him up for 10 weekends in a row. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're taking 10 times 2, that's 20 days out of this guy's life, time that he could spend with his family, preparing for trial with his client, and any number of things. It's 20 days out of his life that are being taken from him, and then he's being locked up, and it's crazy. And you understand, like, what he's requesting, he's saying, hey, this is an issue, I'd like to address this, and that's the right thing for the judge. Would have been for him to recuse himself, or for him to go ahead and request another example of how he has too much power. They requested a mistrial. Every single attorney for every single person involved in this case requested a mistrial. He denied all of them. If you've listened to my content, you understand the importance of mistrial. And I've told you guys before, mistrials are rarely granted. And it seems like no big deal, but it's a huge deal. There's stuff that happens in trials that it's really completely inappropriate, completely could lead to a wrongful conviction, and yet still, judges deny these mistrials. I think it's also important to point out that not only did he lock up the main attorney, right? And that's a solid attorney, by the way. I talked to you guys about how there's attorneys that they're solid. There's some that suck, and a lot of them do, especially most of the public defenders probably. But in addition to doing that, then he goes and he threatens the other attorneys. He threatens them. So not only is he not addressing the real issue, he's doing something that's completely inappropriate. He locks up the person that exposed him for doing something inappropriate, and then he threatens the rest of them. Anyways, crazy stuff. And the final point that I want to make, and it's probably the most controversial one out of them all, is that understand that I talk about how the system is corrupt, and not just for people that are black or brown or whatever. Like, it's unjust for everybody. And I like to be able to continue making that point because I'm not looking to create division with this. I'm saying, hey, let's fix the system. So getting back to the point that I'm trying to make though is this: corrupt judges, unjust judges come in all colors. This judge that we're talking about here, Judge Euro Glanville, he's an African-American judge, and he's doing something that's very inappropriate. In fact, I just experienced something similar with somebody that came to us and was just asking for some help in general about an eviction matter. It wasn't even eviction, it was an issue with a landlord-tenant issues. And she just wanted, some forms printed out and that type of thing. But I decided to attend her trial. This big giant corporation that owns a couple hundred doors, apartment building, they went ahead and they decided that they were just gonna take her money. This is a single mother who's got a couple kids, struggling to make ends meet, and she goes to this apartment building and then she goes to trial. And at trial, you have a Hispanic judge, Hispanic plaintiff, Hispanic defendant, and she was the plaintiff, right? She was just trying to get her money back. And it was crazy to see that it didn't matter that the judge was Hispanic. It didn't matter. Disregarded what she said, made a ruling and a decision against her, allowing the big giant corporation to keep her rent money when she didn't live there at all, and they tricked her into giving them money, like just slime balls. And he did this and it didn't matter. So what I'm trying to say here, and I'm not sure if I'm making this point very clearly, is corrupt judges and corrupt cops and corrupt whatever, they come in all colors. And everybody should care about this, right? About a fair system, no matter what race or religion or background or whatever. It affects all of us. We should all care about a fair criminal justice system. It doesn't benefit us at all to have a system that's corrupt, that's convicting innocent people. That's all I'm saying. I hope this was helpful. Look forward to seeing some of your comments. Shoot me an email if you have any questions or thoughts, that you'd like to discuss. Cool. See you in the next video.